You know, it's funny how quickly things can change during the off-season. One week, everyone is asking questions. The next week, people are starting to get excited about what they're seeing on the field. And honestly, after these first 2 weeks of OTAs, there are a few developments that should have Patriots fans paying very close attention. Some players are stepping up, some position battles are starting to heat up, and there are already signs that this team could look very different once the regular season arrives. Not everything has been perfect, but there are definitely a few storylines that are becoming impossible to ignore. Let's break down the biggest winners, the biggest concerns, and what all of this could mean moving forward. But before we get into it, make sure to hit that like button and drop a "Let's go Pats" in the comments if you're ready for Patriots football to be back. Something happened during these first 2 weeks of Patriots OTAs that I don't think enough people are talking about yet, and the more I look at it, the more convinced I become that this could be one of the biggest signs of where this team is heading in 2026. Because while everybody expected improvements, expected chemistry to grow, and expected the new coaching staff to start putting its stamp on the roster, there were a few developments that stood out far more than the others. And if these trends continue into mandatory minicamp and eventually training camp, Patriots fans could have some very real reasons to be excited. The biggest story has to start with Drake Maye. Just 1 week ago, there were questions about consistency. There were conversations about some uneven practices, nothing alarming, but enough to make people wonder whether the offense was still trying to find its rhythm. Then this week happened, and honestly, this looked like the version of Drake Maye that Patriots fans have been waiting to see. The numbers alone were impressive. Maye completed 17 of his 23 passes during practice. But the statistic that really jumps out is the fact that he completed 14 consecutive passes. 14 straight. The ball simply wasn't touching the ground. What makes that even more encouraging is the type of throws he was making. Reports from practice described him as extremely accurate on intermediate and deep passes, showing confidence and command of the offense. That's exactly what you want to hear at this point in the offseason. We're still talking about voluntary practices. Nobody is handing out awards in June. Nobody is winning divisions in June. But quarterback play changes everything. And from my perspective, one of the most encouraging developments from these OTAs is that Maye didn't just bounce back from a rough practice. He responded in the way elite quarterbacks respond. He looked comfortable. He looked decisive. He looked confident. And perhaps most importantly, he looked like the leader of the offense. If you're a Patriots fan, that's the kind of report you want to hear coming out of spring practices. Now, on the opposite side of things, one storyline that deserves attention involves veteran offensive tackle Morgan Moses. Unfortunately, Moses left practice early after suffering an injury and returned to the facility accompanied by a member of the training staff. At this stage, nobody is talking about a major concern, but it does raise questions. Moses is one of the oldest players on the roster. He's entering a stage of his career where durability naturally becomes a bigger topic of conversation. And when an injury happens during OTA practices, where contact is limited and physical demands are lower than what players face during the season, it's impossible not to notice. The Patriots are counting on Moses to provide stability and veteran leadership along the offensive line. The good news is that his absence immediately created an opportunity for another player. And that player is Caleb Blomstrom. One of the most interesting developments from practice was watching Blomstrom receive valuable reps with the first-team offense after Moses exited. In my opinion, these reps could end up being incredibly important. Because if the Patriots truly see him as a future starting tackle, there's no substitute for working alongside the starting offensive unit. Practice reps with backups have value. First-team reps have a completely different value. That's where you learn the speed of the game. That's where chemistry develops. That's where coaches find out whether a player can handle increased responsibility. The Patriots appear to have a long-term vision for their offensive line. Will Campbell looks firmly positioned on one side, while Blomstrom continues learning and adapting on the opposite side. And even though switching from left tackle to right tackle isn't easy, the only way to improve is through experience. That's why these OTA opportunities matter. If Morgan Moses remains healthy, great. If injuries occur during the season, the Patriots may need Blomstrom to step into meaningful snaps, and based on what's happened this week, he's getting exactly the type of preparation he needs. Another storyline that I think Patriots fans should be paying close attention to involves wide receiver Kyle Williams-Dixon. Not because of what he's done, because of what he hasn't been able to do. After generating excitement during rookie minicamp and putting together an impressive college resume that included over 100 receiving yards, Dixon has yet to participate in OTA practices. That's significant, especially for an undrafted player trying to earn a roster spot. For established veterans, missing spring practices isn't always a major issue. For an undrafted rookie, every single practice matters. Every route matters. Every catch matters. Every opportunity to build chemistry with Drake Maye matters. And right now, those opportunities are being missed. Hopefully, he'll return for mandatory minicamp because the Patriots' receiver competition is shaping up to be one of the most competitive battles on the roster. And speaking of that receiver competition, there's one player who continues to make noise every time he steps onto the field. Pop Douglas. Over the last 2 weeks, Douglas has consistently found ways to get open, create separation, and make plays after the catch. In fact, one of the most talked-about moments from practice came when he caught a deep pass near the sideline before making a move that reportedly left cornerback Brandon Crossley completely beaten on the play. And what makes this especially interesting is that Douglas led the team in targets from Drake Maye during the practice session. The connection appears real. The chemistry appears real. And the battle for snaps in this offense is only getting more intense. But here's the question Patriots fans should be asking themselves right now. Is Pop Douglas doing enough to lock down that slot receiver role? Or is the competition still wide open? Patriots fans, after everything we've seen through the first 2 weeks of OTAs, what stands out to you the most? Is it Drake Maye's incredible bounce back, Caleb Blomstrom getting valuable first-team reps, or Pop Douglas continuing to make plays? Drop your opinion in the comments because the story is only getting started.